Hello, I'm Greg Sadler. I'm a big fan of speculative fiction since childhood. I'm also a practicing philosopher, and I'd like to tell you about a series that I've got that brings the two of those together, intersecting. It's been going on for quite a long time, and we've got dozens of session videos that you can check out. It's called Worlds of Speculative Fiction, and the focus is indeed on narrative worlds or narrative universes. I'll talk about that in a moment. But another key component of it is that we delve into selected philosophical themes. So in a way, you're getting the best of both worlds, analysis of some really fun, interesting, meaty literature, and some philosophical depth and rigor brought to it as well. So if you don't know about the series, it started in 2016. It was originally held as an in-person, face-to-face event, and we went on like that all the way up to the beginning of the COVID lockdown. So it was hosted at the Brookfield Public Library. It was a monthly series. Actually, it still is a monthly series. And in each of them, except for the very first one where we're talking about sort of generalities, what is fantasy, what is science fiction, what is speculative fiction, we would take an author and a series of texts in which there's a shared narrative universe. So, for example, in the first year, we did George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, aka Song of Ice and Fire, the 5 books that we had at that time available and still have available. We did J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, and Silmarillion together. We did Frank Herbert's Dune series. We did Ursula K. Le Guin's Heinisch novels. We can go on and on and on. Those are just some examples. In every one of them, there's a world to explore, a universe. And that's usually tied in with some key philosophical ideas. So we did it for 12 sessions for a year, and then we got invited back to do it for another year and another year and another year. And then we hit COVID, and then we had to take a break and rethink what we were going to do. And since then, the series has taken on a different shape, although not different intention and content. So what we do now is it's an online event that you can join in on wherever you happen to be in the world. And what we do is we have a roughly 90-minute video premiere in which I'm talking, presenting, going over some of the world building, some of the philosophical themes, sometimes biography of the author if we haven't hit on that yet, sometimes what the author, him or herself, has to say about the world and the characters and the themes that they're working with. So we do that for 90 minutes, or sometimes a little bit longer, quite admittedly. And we do that with live chat, so people can say whatever they want in the comments, and I answer them in there. And then afterwards, we shift to video conferencing with Zoom so that we can continue the conversation. And it's a lot of fun. We haven't gotten back to face-to-face, although we're looking into maybe doing that again, partnering with the Brookfield Library, perhaps not every session, but maybe, once a quarter or so. But for the time being, that's the configuration. You can find the videos for all of these in several different places. There's a page in Medium that has all of them linked to. There's obviously a YouTube playlist, since these are YouTube videos. And there's also a free online course that you can sign up for. It's in the video description below. Just click on the link. It'll take you there. Then you can get news about all of this stuff. And so there's a few other things I do want to say before, of course, inviting you to join in whatever sessions you'd like to. So one is, how do I pick these out? Well, the first year I just picked writers that I knew that I liked and wanted to go back to. It was kind of guilty pleasure reading. And then I did the same thing the second year. But since then, because we're now getting close to doing this, we'll have done it for a decade in 2026. I've been soliciting input from the people involved in the sessions, and then much more widely. So around December, every year, you're going to see me in my social media and in my videos putting out 2 different calls. The first one is, give me your suggestions for any author and series that we haven't already covered. Now, you do want to take a look at who we've actually done, because we've done quite a few. We're pushing 70 sessions at this point, so we've already hit on quite a few. We could always go back and look at some series in greater depth and detail later on down the line. But I look for the suggestions, and the ones that get some real traction, because I usually get anywhere from like 30 to 60 different suggestions. I look for which ones are being suggested more than once. And then we take the top 6 and we do a vote. And everybody gets to vote if they want to. I put it out in all my different social media. You vote on who you actually want to see. And I reserve 3 slots out of 12 each year for these fan favorites, right? And this is a great way that I get introduced to writers that I wouldn't myself have come across before, all sorts of interesting series that I just haven't had the time for. And so I follow these out, and they're almost always great suggestions. You can actually see some of them over here. Kim Stanley Robinson, Mars, Dan Simmons, Hyperion, Cantos, R. Scott Bakker's Prince of Nothing trilogy. We could go on and on and on. So the last thing that I should mention, too, is what's the scope of the series? As I mentioned, we're looking at philosophical themes. We're looking how, plot, character, setting come together in a narrative universe and exploring that. We're also looking at what the author's intentions are. But what is speculative fiction? So speculative fiction, it includes fantasy and science fiction and everything in between, like science fantasy and all the different kinds of fantasy and all the different kinds of science fiction. It also includes horror, and that means that there's also an overlap with what we call weird tales, which sometimes go in different directions. It also includes, dystopian and utopian literature. It includes alternate history. It includes superhero stuff. It includes a whole bunch of different interesting stuff, including even nonsense stuff like Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. So there's a vast variety of authors. The main thing for this series that we're always interested in is finding a narrative universe that typically will span multiple stories or multiple novels, because that makes for a really fun, enjoyable, interesting, engaging exploration. So I hope that you can join me for some of these great sessions coming up. We're going to be continuing this for many years to come, I imagine, because there's lots and lots of authors for me to explore, many for you to suggest, all of us to enjoy. And you can look back at the many, many videos that we already have if you want to see what I happen to think about, Mervyn Peake's Gormenghast or any other author and series that we've already covered. You can see me sometimes discussing it with others, sometimes just presenting on my own, but it's all a way of kind of geeking out together and engaging in some fun, interesting, philosophically rich reading. So I hope that you'll join me, whether looking at older videos or whether joining in on sessions yet to come, and perhaps even joining in on the suggestions and the votes come every December. So I'll see you in the series.